distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This is Innovation Without Borders 4.0. We've lined up an incredible line of speakers for you today. They are investors, economists, and practitioners who will be talking about innovation in the context of our theme, Building the Collective Brain. We will start the session with describing new trends in technology. We will discuss the need for continuous human learning, not just machines. And we will hear about what a group of Einsteins are doing to solve a critical human problem and what we can do to help advance their efforts. Without further delay, I will introduce our first speaker, Sumant Mandal. Sumant is a director and co-founder of March Capital Partners, of two tech incubators based in the San Francisco Bay Area, the Hive and the Fabric. Sumant is an expert of investments in IoT, cloud computing, AI, and network infrastructure. Sumant was also one of our speakers for Innovation Without Borders 3.0 at the Khazanah Megatrends in 2017. It is a great pleasure to have Sumant back with us today. Please welcome to the stage, Sumant Mandal.
Well, good evening. Last time I did this, I actually tripped on my way up here, so this time was, at least the start of my talk is a little bit better than last time. As way of introduction, I am a practitioner, investor in technology, have been for 2 decades. So I've actually seen 2 crashes, hype cycles, I've seen the internet come to life, I've seen mobile come to life. And so what I thought I'd do is today give you sort of a sense of how we see the world, what people focus on today, what we think is going to happen in the future. And to try and do all of that in a quick talk is kind of impossible, so bear with me, things will go really quick, and if there's more to discuss, happy to do that later with anyone. As we know, companies that embrace technology tend to do better. Now, this is not unknown. I think most people have heard the Kodak story. But the story encompasses a lot of different names. If you remember, early 2000s, Nokia was the dominant handset. They kind of missed the smartphone boom, and guess what happened? They're no longer relevant in that market. Technologies do have a way of changing how we do things. They have a way of impacting history like nothing before them. And so what is today's technologies? What are the things that we think about? I think, when you go back to 96, 97, 98, and then maybe the early 2000s, it was all about the internet. Every company that would come pitch to us said, we're a .com, we're an internet company. Then in 2004 and 5, it became mobile. 2007 and 8 is when cloud came to become real and could be used by many people. These days, I think we're in the middle of a cycle where it's all about artificial intelligence. And I think you've heard today's talks, quite a bit of people were mentioning AI, but let's go a little bit deeper and say, what is it and what is it impacting? And I think what we are waiting to see happen is these kind of threshold technologies like 5G, we'll talk a little bit about that, and then quantum computing, which I personally find the most fascinating of all of them. Because of this now connectivity being available, what we also realize is that these products and technologies are adopted a lot faster than they ever have been before. Jio is a cell phone company. It's a mobile internet company that was launched in India less than 3 years ago, 350 million subscribers. Fastest growing consumer product adoption ever. And then, of course, we know what happened in social network. And so if you look at today, the top 10 companies in the world by market cap, 5 of the top 10 are technology companies. Of course, the 5th one here I didn't put in because this was done for a US audience, Alibaba. But there's a reality behind the saying that data is the new oil. And as I mentioned, these things build on top of each other. So the time to adopt them actually is fast decreasing, as we can see with the penetration of smartphones. I think it's kind of tapering off. People are looking for the next big thing, and we kind of will discuss what that could be. For me, as an investor, I'm really focused on enterprise software, so it's business-to-business software. The cloud has been a complete game changer, and the reason is that it has democratized access to compute, which means that anybody who wants to build an application today can access an Amazon Web Service and not have to spend millions of dollars on building their own data center. So if I go back to the 2000s, the first thing you had to do was go to IBM, buy servers, go to someone else, get a consulting company to come fix it for you before you could even build an application. Today, all of that is just you pay as you go. You can get it for almost nothing to start. And obviously, as the companies grow, they have to migrate off of that. SaaS, which is software as a service, on the application side, allows enterprises to access these technologies in a much, much more efficient manner, which means they, again, can pay as you go, experiment, no big buy-ins, and over time, they have to sort of think about how they migrate from there. But these companies, the SaaS companies in particular, have really outperformed the market. So what is the enterprise of today? If you think about enterprise software, the first version of enterprise software happened when Oracle came and commoditized the database, so sort of standardized the database. And that unleashed a ton of innovation on top on every layer of the software stack. Applications were written on top of that. Cloud, in the same way, has allowed for an unbelievable amount of equity creation in the last 7 to 10 years. And these companies, like, I'll take an example, ServiceNow or Salesforce, they're dominant in their market, but they may only have 20-25% of market share. Having said that, you can see they have 70 to 80% of the market value of that ecosystem. And there's a reason for that. These companies centralize all data. So if you think about a cloud, it means you have one place where you're collecting all the data, and then you can run algorithms on top of that. So over time, the more data you have, the more customers you have, the more powerful you become. And it's very difficult for someone new to come compete with you. So there is a sort of winner-take-all happening in the world of cloud. We have a company that we started about 7 years ago in the cybersecurity space called CrowdStrike. It went public 2 months ago, and it went from 0 in value, or almost 0 in value, to a $15 billion market cap in 7 years. And the reason they can do that is that they can deliver their product to their customers in a way that they could never have done before. There's no on-prem, there's no integration, there's no professional services. You sign up, you download an app, and you start working on it. And the world is their market day zero. So it's no longer just, hey, I'm going to build a sales force, go after the US market, then I'll open Europe, then I'll open Japan. Everything is available to them, and Amazon has been a great enabler for that kind of a business. AI, it's on every company that comes today to talk to us says we are an AI company. Not everyone is, but they say they are. The US has seen a tremendous amount of investment in AI. It is still, I would say, very nascent in terms of how this technology is deployed and used. I would say we're not even 10% of the way, or where this will impact different things we do. But between the US and China, there's sort of a war going on. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes on AI. And why? Just because the fact, these technologies probably haven't really developed too much since 30 years ago, but the processing around those technologies, the ability to use those algorithms and use that data is now cheap enough, efficient enough that it makes sense for people to go out and do this. What is it impacting? Pretty much everything. Any repetitive process, anything where there are patterns, AI can probably do a better job than humans can. And therefore, within an enterprise, outside of an enterprise, in medical, in gaming, take your pick. Every piece of software that's going to be written now will have some component of AI in it. So what's coming? What are the things that sort of will drive that next wave 5 years from now or 10 years from now? In my mind, 5G is a great enabler. It's just starting to roll out. And the critical thing to remember about 5G is just not about bandwidth, because yes, bandwidth is huge. It's about latency. And latency in application development is a very important concept, because latency just means how long does it take for a decision to be made when you actually call upon a compute to do it. 10x decrease in latency. And what does that enable? Actually enables quite a bit. So this concept of smart cities, autonomous vehicles, all of that stuff, basically today there's a choke point because of just not enough speed in making decisions. You can't be driving a car and expect a decision to be taken to the cloud, taken on the cloud, and come back to the car. You can probably kill someone if that has to happen. So those kinds of things will be enabled by 5G. The other thing that 5G really will actually be very important to is industry. It's really not that important for the consumers. Today's today's 4G LTE networks are good enough for most applications that people want to use. Yeah, of course, video streaming can be better. There's no, all of that slight improvement. But within the enterprise and industrial space, being able to do things like edge computing, being able to do decentralized computing using 5G is going to be a huge enabler. So this world of IoT and 5G kind of go together. I'm talking about these topics in discrete ways, but quite honestly, all of them are interrelated. Quantum computing has always been a mystery. I'm a classically trained engineer. For me to understand subatomic sort of behavior and go into the quantum stuff, which is, words like codependency, words like, co-arising, it's difficult to understand. But the basic idea of a quantum machine is that it's not a 0 and 1 discrete system. It's a probabilistic system where you have, instead of a bit, you have a qubit. A qubit can be 0 or 1, and it becomes one of the two when you actually measure it. The difference is that the entire system is linked to each other. So if you know the state of 1, you know the state of all of the different elements within that system. What does that allow you to do? It allows you to do processing at capacities which completely defy what a conventional compute system can do. What's it going to affect? Anything with high computation needs. So where is it today? Today it's really around cybersecurity, and it's being used for key generation, random number generation. It's being used for chemistry. It's for new material discovery, for drug discovery. But having said that, I think these systems are at least 5 to 10 years away from being commercially viable. You have to take these systems down to cool them to superconductor levels for this to operate. There's a tremendous amount of error in quantum machines today. So, I think it's super exciting, but it's not quite there yet. But it's something we watch and spend a lot of time on. Lots of work. People like Google, IBM, Microsoft, Honeywell are the leaders in the world when it comes to quantum computing. I think we'll start seeing things happen from them soon. Now, what does it mean for everyone? What does it mean for you day to day? What does it mean for people? You carry a ton of compute power in your hands. Everything you do now, you do it with this device. I have 2 teenage daughters, and more often than not, you see an Amazon or a Postmates or some kind of a charge on your phone every day, because it makes life, it is so convenient to do it. It makes the sort of barrier to making a decision much easier. But on the flip side, it also takes away from physical attendance. Basically, what it does is you don't need to be somewhere to experience something. You can experience it wherever you are, whenever you want it. Work. This company, CrowdStrike, I just mentioned, the cybersecurity company, has 32 offices. And it hires talent wherever you can find them in the world. You don't need to be in a physical location to get the work done. And it is being enabled by tools like Zoom and Slack and companies like Microsoft and Apple. And by the way, if you have connectivity, you can work from anywhere today. Playing, and I know Dr. Santi is going to talk a little bit about his journey and something around gaming and esports. It's a massive industry. We have quite a few investments in gaming. It always kind of surprises me how it has grown so quickly and how it has become an integral part of every kid's life, some non-kids as well. So everything we do is through digital today. Where is it going? I think we lose the phone. What's going to happen very soon, you're going to start seeing compute embedded in everything and everywhere. You don't need a device to interact with it. And I'll go through a little bit on where I see that and how I see that happening. I was at a Facebook event a few weeks ago, and I saw their new Oculus AR devices, and quite frankly, I was blown away. It is a quantum leap, to use that phrase, from where things are today, where you have no wires. It's not quite to the place where it can be mass market, but it frankly kind of shows you, points you in the direction where this is going to go. So if you have 5G, low latency, you have easy-to-wear devices on your as spectacles, not as big machines like you have outside. I think augmented reality is how you engage with the universe. You could be walking on the street, you could look at a restaurant, you see the menu right there. You want to call an Uber, you just gesture with your finger, and an Uber shows up. So all of this becomes, the physical and virtual sort of collapses into one. And I think that's the future of technology, and that's what sort of is interesting for us. Autonomous vehicles also have a tremendous sort of, I would say, impact in life. And it's not just about the fact that your car will drive itself. It has an impact on how cities are designed. It has an impact on how people think about investments in real estate. It has an impact on how people think about telecom. And so all of these things have to come together for this to be a reality. Now, I don't think it's going to take 50 years, but let's say in the next 10 to 20 years, some part of that is going to be available for people. And I think a lot of this innovation is being driven by cities in this area, in the Middle East, less in the US. So Singapore and some cities in the Middle East are experimenting with this quite well. And there's always intended and unintended consequences as these technologies come together. So AI, is it a fair system? Does it have a bent of mind that is philosophically one way or the other? When you have so much concentration of networks where you have, you kind of have content that kind of self-fulfills itself, and you keep getting in more and more one point of view versus a dialogue on both, you have polarization. There's many things we think about: displacement of talent, jobs. What does that mean? We had this panel before us talking about, going down to the educational level to see if you can train people for the jobs that are needed, not the jobs that were. Those are things. So in my mind, look, I mean, the only thing I would say is the companies we work with, the people we work with that embrace these technologies early tend to be successful. Hundreds of billions of dollars of human capital is wasted. I think in some ways that could be applied in ways that could be more creative and keeps us in business. So that's all I had today. Thank you for your time, and happy to answer questions later.